Welcome, welcome, welcome to the DURP new feature. As you come in, please use the chat box to tell me where you are tuning in from. So go ahead and use the chat box and make sure to select the drop down for everyone so that everyone gets to see where you're tuning in from. Welcome, welcome from Oregon. I see a Nashville. Who else? Who else here? And make sure to select everyone because I like for everyone to feel a part of the conversation and not just me. Los Angeles, I see Shia from CD Baby in Oregon. I see Sarah tuning in from Video Philly. Welcome. I'm just going to give a few minutes for participants to access the webinar. So in the meantime, let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm tuning in from Medellin, Colombia, where I'm doing grassroots outreach in Latin America for the MLC, as well as a number of North America projects as well. Okay, we're going to just give one more minute for the laggards to tune in. All right. So this has been recorded, so you'll be able to watch this later if I move too fast. There is a Q&A feature, Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. So if you click on the Q&A and want to drop a question there, but since it's such a small group of us, I actually don't mind taking some questions in the chat if the question is relevant to the page that I'm on. So without further ado, this presentation is a overview of a new DURP feature called data transfers and a quick training on its usage. Okay, so before we dive into the new feature, I want to review the DURP data flow concept that was the basis for developing the DURP. The concept was, the notion that an artist or a label would distribute a release through a music distributor, and then that distributor delivers to a DSP, and then the DSPs report to the MLC on a monthly basis. Our job is then to match the reports about the recordings to musical works that have been registered with us, and then pay out the royalties pursuant to the splits on the musical work. Where we are unable to match a recording, it ends up in our unmatched pool, and the DURP is a window into that unmatched database. So this was effectively the initial concept that informed the development of the DURP. And it was sort of based on this sort of one-to-one relationship between an artist or label and a distributor, and then a distributor and a DSP. Now, obviously, the DURP has launched, and we're seeing other types of relationships. So the initial relationship that informed the DURP development was this idea that an individual artist or label distributes through some kind of distribution brand, and then that brand distributes directly to a DSP such as Spotify or Apple. That DSP then reports to MLC. So there's really just three parties in the chain here: the DSP, the distributor, and the rights holder, the artist. But now that we have more insights from the data, there are other data flows that we've been able to recognize. So in some instances, there is between the distributor or distribution brand, we're calling it, and the DSP, a supply chain partner. A supply chain partner could be like a Fuga or a Consolidated Independent, Audio Salad, Revelator, Merlin. So these are companies that are delivering the release to a DSP on behalf of a distribution brand, whereas the brand may has the user-facing website where the artist or label uploads their release, but the actual delivery of the release is the supply chain partner. And what we've seen now is, since the DURP was designed to allocate the unmatched royalties to particular accounts based on the information in the distributor field of the metadata. Another scenario is an indie label using a supply chain partner or some kind of white label service. Same here, some kind of white label service. And then another structure or flow is a label or artist uploading to a distribution brand, that brand then delivering to a primary supply chain partner, and then that supply chain partner using a secondary supply chain partner who delivers to the DSPs. Now, the way the DURP is designed is the brand that is the distributor of record, as it pertains to the MLC, is the entity that is named in the distributor field of the metadata reported to the MLC by DSPs. So when Spotify reports to us, the name in the distributor field is the distributor of record as it pertains to the DURP. But that is not the reality of the information that we're trying to get, which is access to the artist. So the way that looks, for example, is here are some labels, and Penrose Records distributes through Red Eye Distribution directly to DSPs. Alive Records distributes through Red Eye Distribution, and then Red Eye, distributes maybe a sub catalog to Merlin, who then delivers to DSPs. And same thing here. Network Music Group uses a Fuga and distributes to DSPs, but then there's also a scenario where independent artists uploads to a distribution brand, Indify, which uses Fuga as its supply chain partner, and then Fuga, through the deal with Merlin, delivers to DSPs. So these are all different types of scenarios that the DURP was not initially designed for, right? It was designed for this very first scenario: artist or label, distributor, DSP, going back to here, right? Artist or label, distributor, DSP. So what we have here is a scenario where the distributor of record is not really the relevant distributor as it pertains to the goal of the DURP, which is to reach the artist or the label. So here, when the metadata identifies the distributor of record as Merlin on behalf of Red Eye, or Fuga on behalf of Network, or Merlin on behalf of Fuga, the DURP system allocates those unmatched recordings to the DURP accounts of of the distributor of record. So here, Merlin, Fuga, Merlin. So the new system is going to enable a data transfer, and it's based on eligibility, still based on the metadata. So in the metadata, when you use the DURP, you'll see parent company as a field name of a column. This really just means the distributor of record. So in some scenarios, there is a parent company that has other types of brands. And in other scenarios, it's the supply chain partner that is identified as a parent company because that is the distributor brand that is in the field. The distributor column represents the distribution brand that received the release. Generally, the distribution brand that received the release initially from the artist or label. So in this case, this record is not eligible to be transferred because the parent company is Red Eye Distribution and the distributor is Red Eye Distribution. So this is not eligible to be transferred because it's already in the correct DURP account. Here's a situation where the parent company is Merlin because the distributor field has Merlin as tagged here. So this record is eligible to be transferred from Merlin's DURP account to Red Eye's DURP account. Right. Same thing here. Whereas Network Music Group distributed through Fuga, in this case, Fuga's identified as the parent company or the supply chain partner, but the distributor really is Network Music Group. So this record is eligible to be transferred from Fuga to Network Music Group. And lastly, you have a scenario where there's two supply chain partners sort of in the flow, and Fuga is represented here and as a distributor, whereas Merlin is a supply chain partner. So this record is eligible to be transferred from Merlin to Fuga. And eventually we will be able to allow the distributor, the initial distributor, to transfer from Merlin to the initial distributor, right? So that's a gap of two sort of parties in the flow. So basically, here's what it looks like. The release can be transferred from the distributor of record to a new distributor of record. And in this case, if we're trying to get to a live records, we're really trying to talk to Red Eye Distribution, not necessarily to Merlin, who has no direct relationship to a live records. Same here with Network Music Group. If it has a DURP account, it can request to have its releases transfer into its DURP account from Fuga's account. And then same thing here, Fuga can request to have its releases transferred from Merlin's account into its account, and eventually Indify will be able to transfer, request to have its recordings, unmatched recordings, transferred from Merlin's account into its account. In order to request for a data transfer, you have to have a DURP account already, right? So which means you have to be eligible to have a DURP account to be able to request this data transfer. So let's jump into, before I move forward, is any questions? Okay. So quick demo. So here is a DURP account, standard DURP account. And this artist, this distributor is Red Eye. And remember, using this example here, you have labels that distribute directly through Red Eye, then labels that distribute through Red Eye, and then Red Eye distributes through Merlin. So the goal is to get all of the unmatched recordings that were distributed by Red Eye into Red Eye's DURP account, including the unmatched recordings that appear in Merlin's account. So now we have this new feature, this tab that says data transfer. So we click on data transfer and you can search, different criteria. I'm just going to use the name of the, you want to search by the name of the distributor or variations of name. So here, you see that these are all the distribution brands that appear in the DURP where Red Eye shows up, right? So Red Eye Distribution is the distribution brand. We can see it's tagged with Merlin, which means Merlin distributed it or delivered the release. Let me correct myself. Delivered the release as a supply chain partner to the DSP. So right now, the recordings associated with this distribution brand appears in the Merlin DURP account. So Red Eye can then click request transfer and just review the transfer distributor brand Merlin Red Eye distribution from Merlin to Red Eye and submit. And then you can basically just go back and do the same thing for the other ones. Right, so this one's already has been requested. There's Audio Salad, there's the State 51 Conspiracy. So Consolidated Independent, which is a supply chain partner distributed on behalf of Red Eye. Audio Salad distributed on behalf of Red Eye. And Fuga has distributed on behalf of Red Eye. So in all of these scenarios, they will be able to submit to request that the recordings associated with that brand name is transferred over. We then review just to make sure that, let's say, for example, is Red Eye Worldwide actually Red Eye Distribution, right? So we have to do a little bit of checking just to make sure that it's the correct company. Okay, so all of these requests are now in. I'm asking for up to 3 business days to review the request and then to process the request. Now you see at the bottom here, Red Eye Distribution, Red Eye Distribution. The recordings associated with this brand name is already in the DURP account for Red Eye, so there's no request transfer link here because these already appear in the correct account. And eventually all of these brands will appear, and when they do, they will show up throughout the data, throughout the DURP. Right, so all the new recordings, all the unclaimed royalty information, all of this will get automatically updated. So Red Eye can check on the status by looking at review transfer requests and see that these are all pending requests. Excuse me. Once these has been approved and transferred, then the number of recordings that were transferred over will appear in this column. You can look at details. So again, there's no recordings yet because it hasn't been transferred. So that's the basic data transfer process. Again, the purpose of the data transfer process is to make sure that we move recordings into the most relevant DURP account. Meaning the account of the distributor that has direct relationship with the artist or label, because obviously our call to action to distributors is to play your part, which brings me to the play your part page. So I have updated this play your part page with a few with additional things here that I want to highlight. Again, the first part really is to help generate awareness with your customers. So we have some recommendations on things that you can do: a website pop-up, an email blast. We actually have a template email now that you can use to send to your artists or labels that you've identified in the DURP. I also want to highlight this artist lookup page. So this is where you want to send the artist. So a lot of distributors have asked, okay, well, what do we do? Where do we tell the artist to go? So there's this artist lookup page right here. You see where the artist comes here and it says, does the MLC have money for you? They can play a video that talks about the MLC. We give some instructions on the lookup and they can search themselves. So let's say, for example, Red Eye would contact this artist. So this artist would then, come to our page, put in their name, search, and see the recording artist field from the metadata of unmatched recordings. And then the artist can request a meeting with an MLC representative to review his catalog to make sure that we do have unmatched royalties for him and to determine if he's eligible to become a member of the MLC. For distributors who are publishing administrators who may be more interested in having a conversation with their artist about potentially using their pub admin services, I ask that if the artist, basically declines to engage the services, to then send them to us directly, so that the artist can become a member of MLC so that we can pay them out. So either way, this artist lookup page is really the landing page of where to send artists to learn more about MLC and to check to see if we have money for them. We can do joint webinars, we can do blog posts, and here are some examples of what distributors have been able to achieve since the DURP has launched. Some distributors have wrote out their own publishing administration business unit and have become members of MLC directly. And there's quite a few. And if you're already a member of the MLC, this is just highlight some of the tools and resources that we already have available for existing members. Distributors per se cannot become members of the MLC unless you are a publishing administrator, unless you have the rights to administer the musical works of the artists that use your service. So if you're not a publishing administrator, the call to action really is simply to notify your artists and labels that they potentially have royalties at the MLC, and to send them to the artist lookup page to search for their name, and then to set up a meeting with us. Okay, I'm going to show one more thing. I need to stop sharing my screen for a few seconds so I can switch over to a new page. Any questions while I'm doing this little switch? I just want to show you what it looks like once the releases have been transferred over. Okay, so here, once your releases have been transferred over, you'll see the number of recordings that were transferred over. So in this case, this was a transfer of recordings from Merlin to Symphonic Distribution for all recordings that were tagged Merlin Symphonic Distribution. And there were 3,487 recordings. So that will now appear in your reports page. And here's here at the top here. And then you can actually see which recordings those are. So previously, you were not able to see your recordings that were distributed through a supply chain partner because the recordings appeared in that supply chain partner's DURP account. And the whole purpose of the data transfer is to get those recordings now in your own account so that you can then take action on it. One thing I also want to highlight, since I'm here on the page, is that we have updated these value bands and made them much more relevant. Before, there were 5 value bands, but it really only went up to the top one was $5 signs, and it represented, I believe, over over $500 or over $50 in royalties. And that wasn't really helpful since there are some recordings that have tens of thousands of dollars in unmatched royalties. So now these new value bands are more accurate, or they're better indicators. So here, $1 sign means less than $1. $2 signs means $1 to $100. $3 signs mean $100 to $1,000. $4 signs means $1,000 to $10,000. $5 signs means $10,000 to $25,000, and the $5 sign with the plus means over $25,000, so $25,000 or more. So this is much better in terms of distributors trying to prioritize high value unmatched recordings to do outreach to your artist. So for example, if I was to go into the data search, if you go into your data search page, you'll see these value bands again, and you can actually search by them. So for example, if I want to see all recordings where each recording is $10,000 to $25,000, I can select that now. All right, so in this case, there aren't any. And some other accounts there are. So here's $4 sign. So this is $1,000 to $10,000. Okay, so this is helpful because now you can prioritize. You know, there's 149 unmatched recordings that have already accrued anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 at the MLC, according to our estimates. So now you can prioritize reaching out to the artists. Now, one other thing to note is if I was to sort this by artists, you'll be able to see if there's duplicate artists, duplicate releases, then sort of helps to identify that this artist has much more than just $1,000, since each recording is at least $1,000. So this is, I hope, is helpful in terms of prioritizing again, high value releases. Here, let's see if there's any. Yeah, no, there are some distributors with releases or individual recordings where we have several tens of thousands of dollars, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. So this is going to be much more helpful when you're trying to identify how to use your limited resources to support our initiative to do outreach. Okay, any questions? In the chat or the Q&A? We can use the chat, actually. All right, so that's our data transfer. If you can start using it, it's now live in everyone's account. Just click on data transfer and put in the name of your company. If I was to put in Symphonic here again, again, so what you will see is if your company shows up in brands that are already in your account, then there will not be a transfer request here because it's already in your account. For distributors that use supply chain partners such as an Audio Salad or Fuga, Revelator, Consolidated Independent, Label Camp, it's very important to do this process so that we can get the unmatched recordings into your account so that you can take action and help us with that outreach to artists. I saw a message, love the value bands. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, you're welcome. I think it's really important to try to provide as much information as we can. While I would love to show the actual dollar amounts for the individual artists, the MMA and the regulations regarding confidentiality prevents that. We cannot disclose individual rights holder level income information. So I can't provide, for example, okay, this artist has X amount of dollars at the MLC, although I would love to do that. So the value brands are going to be the closest thing you have for now to do that. I am working on a new feature that will allow you to receive a list. When we first wrote out the DURP, there was, in addition to these kind of top unmatched recordings, there was a top unmatched artists list, but that was discontinued pretty quickly. So I want to roll out something similar to that, where you can get a list of high value artists based on the unclaimed royalties of the releases or the recordings that we've been able to identify. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, I mean, I'll stick around for 1 or 2 more minutes, but that's it. That's the feature. You can go ahead and use it now. And please, like I said, if you are a distributor that does not have a pub admin business and you're not focused really on leveraging the DURP as sort of an A&R tool to onboard, administration clients, then the focus really is on getting them over to this artist lookup page. And I'll put this link in the chat as well. So if you can email that out to your customers who you've been able to match back to the data in the DURP, either using ISRC codes or UPC codes or label names or artist names. If you're able to send them to that link, that would be incredibly helpful. We've already have had dozens of artists reach out to us through this page, and several of them have already become members of the MLC. They've already registered new songs. We've already begun the process of matching these unmatched recordings, and within 30 to 60 days, they're going to receive their first deposit of back royalties, and then we'll be paying them out every month going forward. So we want to continue to have that kind of experience with artists around the world who have administration rights for their songs in the United States. Okay, thanks everyone for tuning in. That's the end of the presentation. This recording will be in your DURP account. There's a page here called DURP Training, if you haven't seen it before. So this is where you have recordings of previous webinars. So this will end up there as well. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.